people realize this is our thing, the ownership question. We are in charge of our own lives. We are talking about COVID-19. It's not something that we hear in Spain or we hear in Brussels, but rather it's our question here. It's our concern here. We need to just take charge of that situation and identify what are the capacities and strengths that we have within ourselves that will help us to deal with our own challenge. And you will see another highlight in that video. We had so much from the international community saying we will give assistance to countries in Africa, like Jack Ma in China, making donations for face masks. But very quickly, when our community had taken acknowledgement of that issue, we saw local tailors making face masks from local materials for people to really put on as their face masks. So I think that's an important question when it comes to, before people begin to talk, they need to feel this is our issue, and they have to feel it and live it so that they can be able to sustain whatever the action they want to take. Now, the other aspect that we have found interesting also is the idea that everyone is not left out. No one is left out. We are really awake to the question or to the experience whereby we are asking ourselves, who is with us? Like I remember in that video, you would have seen community, both young people, women, men, children were there. And one of the interesting things in my local market, when we began to take action on the COVID-19, 99% compliance on any shop in that market, you would see an hand washing basin with the soap. For anyone visiting the shopping center, if you have to enter the shop, you wash your hands and you are putting on a face mask. You are not being pushed by the police, and neither the children are being pushed by their teachers to do that. But people realizing it is about my own life. So the question about inclusion becomes very fundamental, like watching out on who is here, who is not with us, why are they not here? What can we do to include them so that we feel we are working together and no voice is left out? And I think that for me becomes a very, very also fundamental question or a principle in terms of setting the condition ready for people to really talk and think of what they can do to sustain or to respond to any issue that they are facing through. Now, the other interesting thing for me and from our own experience is on the question of who are we? I think exploring quite a number of elements like concerns. You know, if I am concerned about my neighbor who is sick, that's an inherent strength in that person and in that community or in a family to show that I care about my neighbor. And I would not want to see my friend or my child or my father getting infected. So it's a deep sense of people showing that we care for each other. And in that community, once you begin to see those kind of elements, it feels better. And people are really responsive and showing that they want to see change in their own community. Now, in addition to that also, when people are getting to reflect deeper on their concerns, they're also not just looking at the concern, but rather looking at the future and becoming hopeful and finding that it is possible to turn around even what we are going through. It's not just naming the challenge or the concern and that is it, but rather it activates another thing in people's minds and hearts of wanting to become more hopeful and becoming resilient even in the difficult times, that things can change for the better. So I think it is also interesting to realize that SALT is the foundation for working through relationships. It never works in any other form that I have seen from my own experience. That the DNA or the thing that holds SALT is realizing that we have to work in a relational way. And the whole scope of SALT is that it's about appreciating. And when you are appreciated, you feel valued and respected. It's about valuing to listen to others more than telling them what you think is right and just giving advice all the time. But realizing that anyone in the community, educated and not educated, rich or poor, young and old,